This video will include story spoilers for March of the Machines and the next set Aftermath as well. You have been warned. Misdirection. Would it be a YouTube pseudo video essay, an opinion piece, if it didn't arbitrarily give you a definition early in the intro? It's the action or process of directing someone to the wrong place or in the wrong direction. I've seen some accusations of misdirection when it came to the art or key art of March of the Machines. I was being a pissy baby, but a pissy baby with a point on Twitter, about the recently spoiled box art showing that Nahiri is fully healed in Aftermath, the set that takes place after March of the Machines, telling us about the aftermath of the invasion, if you could even call it an invasion. It was more of a wet fart, it didn't really go anywhere. This art shows that she's fully healed, no swords for hands anymore. Yes, that's right, Nahiri's sword arms has now been healed fully. She got better. Anyway, we're going to come back to Nahiri in a moment. I was being annoyed at this seemingly lack of consequences or stakes in the MGC story for anyone beyond the bad guys. Something I'll talk about at greater length in a future video, I think, when someone pointed out to me that we might not be able to trust the key art or box art for the next set very much. The point was made by several people that this key art image here, this one, was a key art used to tease March of the Machine, a hype piece. But the hype piece that shows the whole thing as a climatic battle, like the thing from Endgame. It doesn't actually happen. All of these known and beloved characters don't get together to do a big fight. It's not on a card, and it doesn't happen in the story articles either. This simply does not happen. All of these cards do appear in their own moments. They are all in the set as far as I understand it, or we're still in preview season for another day or so. They're all on the team up cards, a large thematic element of the set where we see two unlikely heroes or anti-heroes or whatever, two unlikely allies from the same plane team up to fight the Phyrexians. But they never do a triumphant last stand while they hang out with Chandra like this. How, when you read the story stuff, Chandra spends most of the time just limping around after getting her ass beat. Is this misdirection? Is this even more uncharitably them lying? Well, no, I don't think it is. That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. The idea of misdirection and what it's used for, and are they even using it? But first, a message from today's sponsor, which is CoolStuffInc.com. If you're buying single product or sealed product, use the link in the description below, the code Kenobi at checkout. Get 5% off your order and to help support the show. On Mark Rosewater's blog, Paladin of the Lost Hour said this: please pass along my congrats to the story team, but I do have one complaint. There is such a large disconnect between the key art and the story. We have Chandra alongside legendary characters from multiple planes, creating this image of everyone across the multiverse teaming up together, but that's not really what happened. It's a cool image, but it sets up expectations, and when we didn't get that scene of people meeting each other, I was disappointed. Mark's simple answer was that key art is often symbolic. He's making the point that the stuff that shows up on key art to promo a thing, or the box art for that matter, doesn't have to be literally in the product. That's not necessary. It can be symbolic, it can be abstract. And this isn't the first time it's happened. This booster and the product that shared an image with it always struck me as gorgeous for Brothers War. The art is visually striking and ticks some primal box inside me, but it never appeared on a card. But Urza playing with the Might Stone whilst a robot looms in the background is pretty bang on thematically. It feels like it could be in the set. It's not far removed from what happened. And Team Up certainly is the name of the game in March of the Machine. For better or for worse, this is our assembled, ensemble, endgame moment, more so than War of the Spark ever was. But let's talk about the idea of it being a symbolic piece of art. A symbolic piece of key art. It isn't much different from movie posters or book covers. American Psycho has this cover that I really like. At no point in the story of the novel does Patrick Bateman flay the flesh from his own skull, and nor does it happen in one of the multiple in-books hallucinations that he has. But comparing it to the later reissue that shows us a Christian Bale proxy, drawing lines between the book and the movie that come out at that point, being a man in a suit with a knife, I know which one I'm picking for being a much more interesting and provocative book cover that hints at themes and tone while showing something non-literal, something literally symbolic. However, we aren't talking about abstract themes beyond team-ups, I guess. We aren't conveying this through the poetry of visual art and metaphor. We are showing you a compositive, or they are showing you a composited image of popular characters running towards a mutual battle. I don't think this quite works like the abstract thematic elements that we see in the American Psycho cover. So perhaps this ensemble shot is more comparable to the pulpy film posters of space operas and old-time pulp adventure movies. These posters aren't misleading, and they aren't misdirection either. They are not intentionally trying to make you think something's going to happen that isn't. At no point does Darth Vader grow to twice the size of Luke Skywalker, or Indiana Jones's body transform into a chase sequence on horseback. But the interesting thing about those posters is that they are within established genres. They are part of almost like a canon of established genre conventions that we understand. You might not know you understand them, you may not be able to verbalize them, but they are things that we have learned over time as cinema goers and movie poster observers. Drew Struzan has an incredible style that has been seen across cinema in a poster just shown you right through to Harry Potter and Back to the Future as well. Itself is a visual language, and we might not be able to put that into words, we might not know who Drew Struzan is, but we understand the conventions of his post. It's lacking this stylized, this is a poster image of it. Even the Brothers War Urza that I pointed out, that doesn't appear on a card either. And it looks and feels, for all intents and purposes, like the art of a Magic card. You've also got to remember that Magic primarily tells its story through the card art. I'd say it's card name, card art, and flavor text together combined to tell the stories to the majority of players and people who engage with this game. I'd say the story articles and novels that they periodically, sometimes on rare occasions, release, those things are seen by a mere fraction of those numbers. I'm talking on a magnitude of like 10 times, hundreds of times those numbers. People engage with the game through the art and the card name. But of course, this isn't on a card, it's more key art that was thrown around to every website and news outlet talking about the new Magic set. So it's not quite a card, but again, I still think this has been seen by far more eyes than your story article. And I spoke about it before as well in a video where I don't think putting alternate reality versions of cards into a set is a good idea for storytelling, because that means you're opening and playing with a set and getting the complete wrong idea of what's happening in the story. It's basically just bad storytelling. So we get this moment that we're never going to get, but we also don't really understand by any visual language that it's a poster, that it's a hype image. It's basically just like, here's what March on the Machines will entail. And we're like, whoa. And then it doesn't happen. Again, I want to reiterate, I don't think it's an intentional lie or a gotcha or even a piece of misdirection in order to keep a secret, hide a mystery or a punchline or a dramatic reveal. Instead, it's just a failure to manage expectations. It's a cool piece of art that, to me, looks like a composite of unused character art for all these characters. Hell, there are different versions of this art floating around on the internet where the characters have been moved around a little bit. So I think it's a cool thing they didn't want to leave on the wayside that end up being a moment that doesn't happen in the story. And to sort of like qualify that statement that I don't think it's intentional, I want to talk about what misdirection is often used for. There's a few ways it can be used in terms of both marketing and storytelling. From a storytelling perspective, it can be used to make the audience have a different focus. It can be used to help prolong a mystery or to move the audience's attention away from an obvious element that might give the mystery away. Think the murder mystery where every party involved seems to have a motive or were acting weird on the night in question. Knives Out does this pretty well, as did the sequel. Those are intentional elements of misdirection to keep you guessing. It's part of the fun. I do recall when Eldritch Moon was being sort of teased that I thought there was some misdirection from Wizards of the Coast trying to get people to not, all just shout from the rooftops that it was Eldrazi affecting Innistrad, but I couldn't find the actual misdirection. I think everyone just was convinced it was Eldrazi or Marit Lage, and Wizards had to just like cover their ears and pretend they hadn't noticed that the audience knew what was going on. If anything, there probably wasn't enough misdirection to make that into a real mystery. The other place that misdirection like this can happen outside of like narrative misdirection is perhaps marketing. There's some really famous examples of where films and popular culture has used misdirection to try and get an audience where they think they're going to fail to get one. Fight Club was marketed as a movie about fighting, when in reality it's a liberal deconstruction of capitalism and modern society, something that the trailers did not convey. Vanilla Sky is quite a trippy science fiction film using the visual styles of MTV music videos, but the poster made people think it was a rom-com. And one of the arguments for why this did badly at box office is because people didn't want to see a Tom Cruise rom-com at that period in time. And The Aviator, there's this poster of The Aviator, a film about an aviator. I've personally not seen it, but I'm aware of this example where they tried to frame it looking like a war movie in the poster, and when you went to see it, it was not a war movie. Hold up, Vince in the future here with an edit. I almost removed this part from the video because I cannot for the life of me find the Aviator poster where DiCaprio's got blood in his face. But I remember reading about people saying that they had mismarketed the movie in an attempt to get mainstream audiences to go to the film with a poster that made it look like there was violence and action in the film when there's relatively little of it supposedly. I haven't seen the movie myself, and I now feel like I'm going crazy. I'm going to leave this bit in, because I feel like I've read about this anecdote, and I'm now sharing it, and I can't source it, and I feel like a twat, but someone in the comment section can tell me if they remember this being a thing as well. Do you remember a poster for the film The Aviator? This is such a fucking weird one, where DiCaprio's got blood in his face. Am I going crazy? Looking at both of these forms of misdirection, I don't think that's what Wizards of the Coast are doing here. If we're honest, the team up composite image does speak thematically about the team-up nature of both the story and the cards in it, even if the overall team-up doesn't actually happen. I think it was a punt, but it wasn't a huge mistake, nor was it any nefarious means to missell us a product. Someone somewhere was waiting for this moment, but instead we got Teferi and his home plane arriving in the final moment after being contacted by Ren. In some ways, it might even cheapen that moment. We expect one thing and we get another. Not through a natural setup and subversion of expectations within the story itself, but instead because some art we got shown of a fictional thing that we had no idea was going to be a fictional thing was a fictional thing. If it had more of the hallmarks and the visual language of movie posters, album covers, book covers, then it might have been more clear that this is a symbolic piece of art. But just showing us this as a hype piece suggests that it would be in the set. And the Brothers War art that I used as an example, and this Kamigawa art here, all of these are more recent things. It's not really that common for Wizards and Magic in general to have stuff on the boosters and the products that aren't in the sets. Traditionally, conventionally, we understand that the art on the product is going to be in the set. It's unusual when it isn't. That has obviously changed in recent time, but not enough for people to really understand that's the way we go now. This wasn't intentional. It's not a lie as such, as some people have said. It's just a mismanagement of expectations. So with that in mind, let's talk about Nahiri. Are the stakes not important now? Have we had a spoiler for the future story that she is fully healed, as shown on this Aftermath box art that we're now having to question whether or not is true and what's happening, or symbolic? Does she redeem herself? Is this some sort of force ghost or a memory of her, like a metaphor or a spiritual symbol? As you can tell, I'm just stumbling over myself. Well, what does that even mean? She had swords for hands. I just wish that, well, when she gets made a good girl again, somehow that she has to keep some of the harm and the changes done to her body. Not just to her, by the way, to all of them. I think this extends to Ajani and so on as well. That they should be Phyrexian, and then when they're unphyrexianized, that's a thing you want to do. They should be noticeable. They should be visibly have been Phyrexian before. They should be unnerving to people whose homes have been destroyed during this invasion, and I use the word invasion lightly. I want Nahiri to have to use her magic to transform her hands into something far less threatening when in a social setting, from blades to kettles. Nahiri Kettle Hands could be the name of an ex-planeswalker. It's far less imposing, far less threatening. Or is this all just a red herring? I don't really like that idea, that story spoilers like this will show up on official product only to be symbolic, and thus a red herring for where the story is going. That would be a gotcha. That would be an intentional misdirect that feels cheap. Like, I get that Marvel themselves had Thor's missing eye in Ragnarok not shown in the trailers, and they do shit like this all the time to hide plot points for movies, especially with Marvel. And if we could stop comparing Magic to Marvel at some point. Did you know that like extended connected universes is not a Marvel cinematic new thing? I think you did know that, but people always talk like Wizards are just cribbing from Marvel when they've had an extended multiverse for fucking decades prior to the cinematic universe of Marvel coming around. I'll talk about that in another video. In some ways, this misdirection would be very lazy. But at this point, I'm so disappointed in Nahiri being healed, I guess I'm going to dislike this either way, whether it's a red herring or it's the truth. Both of those eventualities suck, in my opinion. The build-up to March of the Machines was really hype, in my opinion. I just think the climax was... It was a climax. We climaxed a bit early. We had spoiler season, 1 week of just harrowing us with story articles, and bang, they're all dead. All the bad guys are dead, the invasion is over, and all the walkers are now getting healed, barring Jason Vraska, and they might even get healed further down the line as well. I'm going to do a whole video on that. I do feel like I was really into it, and now I'm just like... what's the point? So anyway, there we have it. We get the idea that having symbolic moments to key art and products, but perhaps that convention needs to be established going forward, and the visual language needs to be obvious for that, because that would help to, I don't know, manage expectations and not look like unreleased Magic art that you then released a little bit early. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This isn't a big drama or anything like that. I find it just an interesting point in terms of storytelling, marketing, and so on. Let me know what you think. I've been Vince, PleasantKenobi on the internet, and don't forget to subscribe as well. I'd love it if you click that subscribe button. It really helps my ego. It helps me get it up at night. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Ta-ta for now.